Well, thanks so much for coming on to talk about the ZX Spectrum. And as I say, I hope you're enjoying everything Play Blackpool's got to offer, all the machines, all the old happy memories, our trailer hall, all of our tournaments and things, if that's your thing as well. I'm so pleased we've got so many great talks this weekend as well. Jim Bagley, who just came in the room, will be chatting with you over the course of the weekend as well. I mentioned there'll be some football. We're doing sociable soccer tomorrow afternoon. Big launch of sociable soccer for the sensible soccer fans, and those of you who are sociable soccer fans and don't realise it yet. We'll be talking about that tomorrow. We're doing the Pac-Man Masterclass tomorrow as well with one of, I think, only 7 people in the world who has the perfect game, John Stoodley, who, if you've been coming to replay events a lot, you'll have seen him. He's the guy always playing Pac-Man. Because that's what he does, trying to get the Pac-Man record, and last year he got it at one of the replay events. It takes about 7 hours to do the perfect game, and he will tell you how. It's not a real-time talk. There won't be 7 hours. But we will tell you how do you play Pac-Man for that long and get the perfect game, and how do you get there with Pac-Man. We'll be telling you that tomorrow afternoon. And we've also got a Sonic Masterclass this afternoon as well. Everybody is aspiring game character designers or artists. We'll be talking with Duncan Goodrich, who drew Sonic. And he'll be telling us how to draw Sonic and make characters, and we're doing that this afternoon in 3. And before all of that, you are here. We're all just in love with the ZX Spectrum, right? Or there better not be any Commodore owners in the room who are here just to tell us we were wrong. We all know those people. And you're welcome, Commodore owners, to learn why we were right all along in this talk. I'm so pleased that our first talk this weekend is all about the ZX Spectrum. Something very happy about. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please put your hands together for our very special guest starting our talk today at Play Blackpool, Henrique Olifiers. So glad you're joining us. I'm going to start this, not with you, no, if you don't mind, I'm going to start this with all of you. Can we get some hands in the air and just a bit of a love-in, really? Let's start out. Whoa! ZX Spectrum 48K rubber key owners, where are you? Yes! Yay! Who's still got one that works? Oh, good! I've shamelessly put my hand down at that point. It's worn out. What could you do? We can get new ones. What about, let's see, Plus? Who had Plus? The reason I don't have my 48K rubber key anymore is actually because Dixon's lost it in the 80s and gave me a Plus to replace it with, which I felt really pleased about and at the same time really sad about. It's like, oh, a new version. It's not the same though. Plus what else? A shout out for me. What have you got, ladies and gentlemen? What ZX Spectrums are kicking around in your houses? 128? Yeah? The heatsink one. Okay, what else have we got? Somebody? +2. A +2? Yeah, +2 owners. A few of us have +2s. Yeah, there we go. I can't remember all of it. Yes, Chris as well.
Auric Atmos.
An Auric Atmos.
Does that count?
It's just a shell, yeah.
A what?
+3.
A +3. Oh yes. Yes, of course. I get back to 3s. Anyone got +4? Oh, I do. Everybody playing special games on emulators now? Yes? Speculator, yeah, your Specky t-shirt as well played that. Speculator and other emulators and also, oh, here we are, this is how to spend the weekend. Henrique, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Go on, let's get it right in there off the bat and let's divide the room. Favourite Spectrum game?
Oh, that's a good one. Favorite special game. I would be torn between Quasatron and Cyberpunk. Quasatron was because Power Driver died, right? Who doesn't like that game? The gameplay is so cool. And Cybernoid, it was a truly arcade game, right?
Yeah.
It run a very high frame rate. It set the bar for many games to come. And it still looks incredible on the screen. The old effects.
Yeah. And the keys for the different weapons, it all worked really well. It was just so accessible. It was a game that I got particularly fine. I really enjoyed Cybernoid. And the sequel was good too. Yes, good, we're getting nods for the sequel. That's not something we say very often, is it? Gaming conventions and film conventions, but the sequel, yeah, that wasn't a waste of time. So why did you fall in love? That's what we're talking about here, the love for the ZX Spectrum. Why did you fall in love with the ZX Spectrum?
Well, I think it, like everybody here, right? Back in early 80s, I got under the Christmas tree and the box, but as you can tell by my accent, I'm Brazilian.
Can everyone hear okay, by the way? Which makes all nice all right in this room.
Yeah, Mike doesn't seem to be...
Yeah, just come and go, doesn't it?
Hello.
No, use mine. And also,
Okay.
and you
So
also.
you hear me now?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So early 80s, I got one under the tree for Christmas after bothering my father for I don't know how many months before I got one. But as you can tell by my accent, I'm Brazilian. So what I got was this. This was the clone, unofficial clone of the Spectrum
I'll bring this
that
around.
got launched in Brazil called the TK90X.
We are starting to talk on the ZX Spectrum with not the ZX Spectrum.
But for all purposes and intentions, it is a Spectrum. It's slightly modified ROM, so it plays probably 95% of the games. But we still have that wonderful rubber keyboard that everybody falls in love with. And it's one piece of hardware, it's one box, it's one thing that sits on top of your tiny desk with a tape recorder, and that's all that you need to have fun for years on end and start creating your own games and challenge the limitations of the hardware. Think that you can do better than the games that you have access to.
A few people want to make you an offer for this. A few people don't want to make you an offer for this.
That is the real one. That's one.
This still works.
This still works.
This was yours. This is how you started.
The very first machine is 30-something years now. It still works. So
It's
I
very
can get anyone who wants one. I can get one like this, but not this one. I'm afraid.
Oh, well, there you go. To your museum. We'll get talking to you afterwards. Really? How would you do that? They're just kicking around in Brazil?
Yeah, they are. They are. It's popular in Brazil on auction websites.
Okay.
As the Spectrum is, right?
Right.
It's not a rarity at all there. And they have the Plus as well. It doesn't look like the Plus at all. It looks like it's more like a typewriter machine with the chunky C64 style of keys.
This, you sent me your presentation during the week, and I saw this, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a good weekend. I'm happy about this. There we go. That's what started things for me. Outstanding. For many of us in the room, I suspect, hands in the air. Who started everything, gaming, computing, all of it, with one of these?
Earlier.
Yeah, decent chunk of us as well. And you with your knockoff one. I loved it so much. I spent far too long not making friends because I had one of these things. I'm sure we could do a different talk at a different convention to be like, why the ZX Spectrum was bad for everyone in my generation. This is gone again.
And then you have this one as well. They're both beautiful pieces of design. Even the ghost track is one of my favorites with that.
The toast rack.
Yeah, the heat sink on the right. I love all of them.
It's so different though, and I know you know something. You've been working with Rick Dickinson.
Yeah.
We'll talk about why towards the end of this talk. Do you know anything about why they were so different in design?
Yes.
Completely different design. Tell us about that. The 48K, the rubber keys, and then moving to this.
These inherited the keys from the QL. This design was inherited from the QL, right? The QL was meant to be a more business machine, and the rubber key was named the bandwidth that you got input texting on the keys. Okay. The rubber key was not sufficient for business.
Yeah.
So Rick created the QL design, and luckily enough, the Plus inherited those keys. It has to do with how much information you can put into the computer per minute.
Okay.
It's really that good.
I suppose actually, that question is kind of the wrong way around. Rather than thinking, how do we get from a rubber keyed spectrum to one of these? This is far more similar to most other. You got another one? No. There we go.
Comedy mics.
And there we go. Actually, yeah, the question is more, isn't it? Why did we start with a rubber keyed spectrum? Who thought of that? Because everything else looked like this, didn't it? It had buttons between that made out of modern technology plastic. And it was cost.
Yeah, Sinclair was keen to keep it as cheap as possible. And then one membrane was much cheaper than ABS's, all these mechanic keys and having springs on them and all that.
Well, the design changed not just in the sort of physical materials and stuff, but on the rubber keyed one, everything was all these coloured words all over it.
Yeah.
And then that didn't travel forward on any of the sort of future.
No, it's a shame, isn't it? Because those colours are much better indicators than these.
Even the colours themselves that are written on the number keys at the top, they're not in colours. I find it's very much, it's more of a business machine, isn't it? Even though it's a games machine, it's businessy. But still something I'm sure many people are very, very affectionate about in here. So let's go from the top.
Okay.
Henrique, you've been around with the Expression for a long time. Why do you love it so? I know you got your first one from, why do you love it so?
For me, it was a very known quantity, right? The machine, you knew the values of the machine. And every time you loaded a new game made by a genius, usually from the UK, it will blow away your limits and it will show you that everything that you knew and take for granted was bonkers. And they could do much more than that. They could push the hardware. That is something that we have lost today. There's so much technology around us that we cannot appreciate how much effort goes into something that is special because those boundaries are not defined anymore. And every time I saw, like when the first time, some of the games that I put here, when you see Attack was probably the first time I saw an isometric game. For most people, that was the first time we saw an isometric game, and that came to dictate how many games afterwards came to look like. Or Manic Miner, that was the first time I heard music in game, right? Managed somehow to do that, and it interrupts to the gameplay and so on. Same thing with Jetpack, was so high the frame rate of the gameplay that showed that machine didn't have to be frame by frame, it could be fluid experience. Nightlore with Filmation, it brought a whole new quality level for every other machine around at that time, not just the Spectrum. People looked at that and said, oh my god, how can we make this in our machines? And then the Commodore started to catch up with isometric as well. And even things like we take for granted, like the Metrovania style of game, you could find it rooted back in things like Starway. And when you talk about GTA, open worlds, and being able to go wherever the hell I want to do, whatever I want in my own terms, you can go back to Lords of Midnight doing that 20, 25 years before it did, right? So many of these things, so many of these language that we use today in games and that games employ to make everybody here have great fun when they're playing them, were defined by these machines, the people coding on the spectrum. This is why I fell in love with it. It's twofold. It's a machine that never stopped giving you surprises, and with every surprise, it teaches you that it's the same machine, but you can do better, right?
And was it easy to get hold of games when you were a kid on your knockoff Spectrum?
Games were knocked off as well.
Okay.
Yeah. But there weren't that many, so and that's what pushed me to become a developer, right? Like when I exhausted probably the half a dozen games I had access to, I started to make my own games. And I was grateful to do that, because it was out of necessity that I became a programmer, not because I always had this dream of making games.
Okay. Also, what originally did you want to do? Did you know?
Play. Yeah, the Spectrum was an upgrade for the Atari 2600 for me. I could do more with it. It was a good excuse. It's for education, right? I could do my homework on my computer, that kind of stuff. That a lot of people probably use as an argument to convince their parents to get them on first computer. So,
I don't think I ever convinced my mum and dad there was any homework I could actually do at my school age on a ZX Spectrum. But that was a long time ago. Yeah. Did anybody ever pass that off as a homework tool? Yes, one hand! Worthy of a round of applause, I feel. Well played, you. There we go.
I'm not alone.
Now, of course, one of these games, not all the games you mentioned, some of the games you mentioned, some of the games we're looking at, they're on other platforms as well.
Some of them, yes, but not all of them. For instance, Jetpack, I think, is an exclusive. Many miners, but no, it was ported afterwards. Yeah, it was. It was by I forgot his name now. The ex-Sony guy who worked with all the indies. Oh my God, he's a good friend.
Someone knows. I mean, he's a good friend of yours.
I'm terrible with names, I'm afraid. But they were the first ones that I got in touch with, right? And some of the games were exclusive. You see, I don't think Thanatos went. No, he went. He was back in the day, so it's probably. Matthew Smith did the original one, yeah, but who ported to Commodore 64 wasn't him.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we're using it, aren't you? Please do. No, sorry. Okay, so you started learning games. Did you send some stuff off to software houses? Were there Brazilian?
No, I sold it myself.
Okay.
I sold it myself first to my friends, and then I started to do mail orders. So we put ad magazines, and now I will copy them myself on tape decks, and then I will mail order them to people in Brazil. That was my first company, but we're probably 13, 14 years.
So how many games were you turning out? How many copies of this?
I will probably turn out around 1,000, 2,000 copies in a year.
And how old were you? If you don't mind my
I
asking.
think 13.
13.
Yes, but by the time I started selling them, probably 13.
You were at home copying sort of 3 or 4 a day
Yeah.
to fulfill your business, or was it a year?
Yeah, and I knew we had tape decks, you didn't have to copy them through the machine, right?
Yeah.
You just use multiple tape decks and copy them all. You could use things like OmniCopy, you load on the RAM, then you dump down back in the machine, but the right way to do was just that. And I had a friend who backed them with me, and we would make one of them.
Did you make little cases and covers from them?
Yeah, we print it black and white, but hey, there you go.
Wow.
And it still continues to this day. Some people still continue to code the Spectrum. The passion that it brings is so powerful that it brings along. I brought a few games that I wanted to show. All these games are probably 5 years old at most.
So this may be a surprise. And as much as I love the ZX Spectrum, I honestly was not aware how much is still going on. And I'm sure some people in the room will jump me on that as well. So you say none of these games that we're looking at here are more than 5 years old?
No, unless they make it
Which is good, because on the last screen, I think most of us in the room were doing a little bingo in our minds and think, oh, I reckon I can name most of them, and that one's bugging me, but not what that is. These, though, if you've been looking at them and thinking, oh, they're not that familiar.
No, they're all new games. Some of them are made in Russia, which still keeps pumping out both hardware and software on a regular basis. But some of them are British, and I think I have a slide here about the game jam that I will get into later on. But there's no stopping the spectrum. If today you start to scavenge around the web what has been done in here, Spain, and Russia, you're probably going to find more software you can have time to play with. And come on, that's 30-something years around, right? And it's still pumping out good games. Some of these games are amazing to play. My favorite from here is Dreamwalker over there. Has a very key, unique game mechanic that you teleport with the other player. You control two players at the same time. They are mirror of each other. You swap places with them. It's such a refreshing game mechanic that you don't see in other games.
It would be fair to assume that there's something still going on in the development scene on the Commodore and the old similar era machines. Well, this isn't just exclusive to the Spectrum, but there's a lot of love still out there for the Spectrum, and a lot of this is still going on.
Yes, for the other machines still go on, especially the Commodore. They have a lot of love for printing the cartridges, right? And even companies still sell them. But there's something about I may be wrong, but I don't see the same kind of game jams and all that going on for the Commodore yet. At least I haven't seen in the past few years.
They have competitions. They have phones.
They have competitions.
They have competitions.
Yes.
But these,
In the end, it's the same thing, right? Game jams and competition.
Yeah.
I forgot. But there's something about going with the Spectrum, which is especially. I didn't know this, but the demo scene of the Spectrum is amazing as well, right? All these lists here is from February to March, so is a lot going on.
Yeah, this year as well, if you can't talk about it. It's February 2016, and the rest of it is March 2016. So what we're looking at here is, these are demos.
These are demos submitted in the past 2 months. Right?
Submitted to a site.
Yeah, the Poet.net is the site for demos in the world, right? Any demo for Spectrum, Commodore, any machine you can find it again. Now, the Spectrum was never a demo scene as strong as the Commodore or the Amiga, right? Don't get me wrong. But to see it flourishing to this day, especially on what they call the enhanced Spectrum, which is the hardware that is made in Russia that has far more capabilities. So they have two complications, competitions and so on.
Hang on, use this one, we'll get this fixed.
Thank you. Sorry for the technical problems. So there are two main categories when we're doing demo scene competition. Hello. Done?
That's all.
Thank you. So the vanilla Spectrum, right, which can be 48 or 128K, and you have what they call the enhanced, which has the memory doesn't have racing conditions with the EULA, which means that it's free to access at any time, and that gives it much more performance. But they also have modes and the CPU operates at twice, even 4 times the regular speed, and then you have 512K of RAM. So those demos become very, very much almost like Amiga quality kind of thing.
Does it feel like it's not a Spectrum anymore?
There is a good discussion going on all the time in these forums about if it's real spectrum or is it not real spectrum, right? And that's beyond the point. What is happening there is that the spectrum being kept alive. That's what matters, right? These people are still coding in machine code for the Z80 and dealing with color clash. How beautiful is that? This is the landmark of the spectrum, is the color clash, and the palette that is so iconic.
I guess that's something true of sort of all the retro, particularly the emulation sort of world. You know, there's stuff being done in emulation which is because that's true to how it should be done. You know, we could have emulators that are much easier to code, much easier to code for, and could run at faster speeds than we could be emulating, you know, sort of more recent consoles on PCs and so on. But the emulator community wants to make sure it's running exactly as it used to be and not take any shortcuts and not think, well, if we code it like this, that's a bit more efficient. If that's not how it was done, then that's not how we're going to emulate it.
Yeah.
So there's an honesty and a purity to that. We want to keep things as they were, which is great.
They consider that to be an art, right? They making the emulator as realistic as possible is the end goal. But you also get games that only work in such conditions. A typical one is called aquaplane, where they use a timing on the border to use the border as an extension of the playfield. So you have the border in two colors, it's cyan on the top and green on the bottom, or something like that. But when it actually feels like the whole screen is being used, and you can only do that if the timing of the processors, all the hardware is related down to the millisecond. If there is one cycle lost, that effect changes position. Another game that you cannot play if the emulator is not 100% is Arkanoid. They use so many tricks on messing with the Z80 and the EULA, which is the graphics processing. Well, it's basically the Spectrum E is mostly the EULA, right? Most of the hardware is within that chip. So anything wrong, like, breaks that game. So it's a practical as well. You need that.
So these are demos.
These are demos.
And looking at these, like this feels familiar. It feels like Spectrum images, and yet then I look at it and think, well, there's no way, you know, we had stuff that detailed or colour clash being quite so localized as opposed to sort of widely spread, if at all, in some of them. So this is amazing things. And you're saying that so jams and things are still going ahead, and there's a lot of development going on in Russia with hardware and software.
Yeah, you see even mainstream media covering it still, like The Guardian talking about it and directing people to create their games. And when you're saying that some of those demos look like there's no color clash, that's very much it. People found a way to print more colors without any hardware change or anything like that.
On original hardware?
On original hardware, yes.
How did they miss that?
It's
so
timing. They use a special timing when the EULA is halfway through the scan line. They change the palette so it goes again. You still use the same memory amount, the same colors, but they're able to cram slightly more colors on all lines.
Is anybody developing for Spectrum now? Any? Yes? Jim? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We'll talk about a little bit more about your career talk that we're doing there on the weekend then, I guess. But are you familiar with a lot of what's going on in this community as well?
Yeah, I've seen some of the stuff there. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is an engine called Nirvana engine for the Spectrum that is very easy to use that enable you to do those kind of tricks with the colors from the box.
I kind of don't want all the old colour clash to be replaced. So am I the only one in that? That felt like part of the Spectrum. That's what we got rigged for, wasn't it, Specchio? There's Commodore Ennis in the playground who'd be saying, oh, you got colour clash, we don't have as bad as you do, so and so. I like it in a way, it's part of my memories of the Spectrum.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Now, you're from Brazil, and you got your Spectrum in Brazil and so on. Did you have those arguments? Is that a global thing? Was the Spectrum always having to find its corner everywhere?
Yeah. In Brazil, it was not with the Commodore. We never had a Commodore in Brazil. But we had the MSX, the Japanese.
Oh, okay.
Right? Which, one of the ironies of it is that most of the games you will find on the Spectrum were actually ports on the MSX, were ports from the Spectrum. They play exactly the same. But when you got a native game on the MSX, they tend to look slightly better because they could deal with sprites and have more colors per sprite, so they could do a better job. But there was those arguments of we poking fun at the MSX users that most of the games they like were actually Spectrum games, not MSX games at all.
Okay. So that's a game jam. People still doing game jams now.
They still are, yeah.
And development carries on.
Yes, both in software and hardware.
Yeah. So we've got you. People may like to come up and see what we've got
Pictures
here.
here
Yeah,
of
let's see.
what's going on the scene. People who love the Spectrum probably have to grasp one of these now and then, right? For this one in the middle, the Magic is for audio, but then you have the one piece on the top that even give you network capabilities.
Yeah, just take us through this. Red clockwise through it. What are we looking at?
Right, okay, so there on the top left you got the Neto PC or Spectrum Evolution, which is the top end board anyone can get. It's a Russian computer, right? It has 4 megs of RAM and it can go to 28 megahertz and so on. That is what.
Yeah!
Top end.
Come on! 4 megs of RAM.
And that's if you ever heard about TS config. That's what it's about. It is a mode that machine has that enables you to have, I think, 256,000 colors and so on. So it became almost an Amiga grade machine. It's also just 16 bits if you switch that config off. And that's what people say it's not a Spectrum, right? Yeah. So, but if you take that config off, this is pretty much a Spectrum. So there you have the TV IDE on the right there with a memory card, which is basically replacing, it's a hard drive, right? But instead of being a spinning disk, it's a memory card. Same down here, but here is a little bit, they have a USB keyboard and a mouse, a capsule mouse attached to it as well. Because some, especially Russian applications use mouse now as an input. You have the DMMC on the top, they use SD cards. It's very similar to the other one, use SD cards. That one is the 1 bits, which is the major function for it is network. Right?
Your local play or internet or
everything. It gives you an IP. You can tweet. There is a Twitter application for it and everything.
you can tweet from it.
You can tweet from it. Yeah.
Of course you can. Wow,
that's my then the others are variants and Capstone dual joysticks and so on. But if you want a good machine today, you have to grasp some of these things and
you have to import bits and then choose a capability you want and plug it all together. And yeah.
And then there are the other trend, which is people who are making rebooting the machine, right? The Spectrum Evolution, which I mentioned, but this one is very interesting from Spain, called it ZX Uno. Emulates the Spectrum perfectly, but also emulates some other computers like the Scorpion, etc. And it brings up the ULA Plus, which is the Vega also has it. It's an evolution of the original ULA chip that enables you to have slightly more colors. Not the color flash. Color flash is still there, but you have more colors on top.
More colors to clash with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you get the missing link, which is the orange and so on. Right?
Okay.
And what's beautiful about the ULA Plus is that people are recoloring some of the original games. So you can have Terra Crest and Cyberboy 2 and Dandari and all those games with new palettes. It's just quite
skin tones.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite interesting to see. So these files are available for download. You load them before they load the game. They look slightly different. And this is a friend of mine that created the TV Blue in Brazil. It's very similar to the Uno, but it has slightly more features. And it has output for VGA and RGB. It has a scan doubler. The one also has a scan doubler, but I don't think it has all the features that the TV Blue has. In particular, the TV Blue was made with the same dimensions of the original Spectrum, so you could replace your board and put the TV Blue in, just cutting a small port to the back, and it has a DB9 joystick engine, so you can use the original joysticks with it. Right?
Oh, correct.
So it's kind of everything that you would love in a Spectrum with an SD card, so you can open your Spectrum, put it inside, and just neatly house it in there. So that's the difference. You don't need a special key.
And leave your little tape deck and your tiny screwdriver there can use for the head.
Yeah.
Sadly remains in your loft while the rest of this is going to later. Okay, so this is a bit of a surprise, so much a surprise perhaps to some of us, certainly to me, that so much was going on in other countries. So much is going on now as well, and you're very much still involved with this. People may not realise, you're developing now. You don't just develop on Spectrum, you've worked on a lot of recent, well-known games such as
Surgeon Simulator, I'm Bread, and so on. I am a co-founder of a studio in London called Boston Studios, where we made some games that got some traction.
Yeah, I'm Bread. So today, some people in the room have played these and got these. I'm sure I'm seeing some good nods for this. And they are. was going to say notorious, that's not fair. But, you know, they're well-known games because they are unusual. And Surgeon Simulator are pretty graphic, but on a lot of platforms as well. And then I Am Bread is, if you haven't played I Am Bread, but no, you tell the story of I Am Bread.
It's basically a slice of bread wants to become toast.
You are bread and you want to be toast.
Yeah, and
That's what the game is.
in the same vein of Surgeon Simulator is probably one of the hardest games there is under the sun to control, because how do you control this of bread? You have to control each one of the four corners of it and make it tumble around until it gets to the destination.
Until it dies or changes. I'm not sure how bread would feel. Let's ask you the philosophical question here. When the bread becomes toast?
Well, when it gets into the... Well,
When it does become bread, it's going to be the same.
it's a fulfillment of a dream, right?
So all bread wants to be toast.
Of course.
So everybody is happy just being bread.
Yeah.
Did you investigate this for long?
Yeah.
Where does an idea like I Am Bread come from?
Game jams. Oh,
There you go.
Game jams.
Okay, so you will attend game jams and these areas will be around.
Game jams, so we do game jams every single month. All 35 of us stop and jam. And we come up with these crazy ideas. So.
And they turn into overall selling games. I Am Bread is a year old?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
20 year,
Yeah, and I've seen it at big gaming expos that I've been working at it. It's been on the big screen, isn't it? But you still go for the Spectrum as well?
I do code, and especially I'm very I'm passionate about the hardware, right? I like tinkering with the hardware, expanding my spectrum, and all those boards and seeing what they can do and so on.
Do you, as a developer, names on the platforms that Surgeon Simulator and I Am Bread, they're on basically everything which is around now, including mobile. You get Surgeon Simulator on
PlayStation,
yeah, all the sort of ones you were naming now that are current. Is it the developing for modern systems that make you wish you could do more with an old Spectrum? Is that kind of a circular thing? Do you run new games on new platforms and then think, oh, well, I should be working on this over here?
So again, I think the beauty of working with the Spectrum is knowing where the limits lie, right? I'm not dealing with the limits of the engine I'm using. I'm dealing with the limits of hardware in front of me. So anyone who knows to code the Spectrum or knows the game that runs on them, when they see something you made on the Spectrum, they can judge if you are good or not, if that is actually something that contributes to the scene or not.
Because we've seen so much from it.
Yeah, when someone makes something that shouldn't be possible, like putting more colors on the screen, right?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, when you find that, or when you do something that's very optimized and plays very well, people pay attention and learn from what you have done. This community is very open source, thankfully, and then you feel like you're progressing that machine. Now, on the other end, when you work with PlayStations and PCs and so on, the hardware evolves much faster than you can evolve as a coder, as a designer, and so on. It's very easy for you to max out any machine, right? You just do poor coding or just don't do your job well. But for you to max out those machines is not really possible because they advance faster than your capability to max them out. And this is why I feel is a little bit lost.
That's very interesting.
In fact, I discussed about this before. I hope I'm not making something stupid here. People will prove me wrong.
Well, so I guess with a platform that's been around so long like Spectrum, yeah, we would think we've seen the best of it. And when somebody goes, oh, I've found some colours, and by the way, colour flash, solved it. That's going to be huge. What? We've had those for so long, and it's like you've invented colour television, and all we've been watching is black and white. Whereas with modern platforms, like PS4 and Xbox One and so on, yeah, we're nowhere near scratching the potential of those. Whereas people, developers I know, will talk about the previous generation, PS3 and so on, and go, it was only like in the real last couple of years we've really pushed that.
Yeah, and if you're stuck with a PlayStation 3 for another 10 years, you will still see things coming out that you did not think were possible on the machine, right? This is why the best games come out towards the end of a generation, because people are better used to the hardware, they can use better tricks.
Yeah.
It's a toolbox, isn't it? Once you learn how things work, you start to accumulate those toolboxes, and then you look at a game and say, how the hell can I cram all these ideas into that? My toolbox is here. I know how to avoid color crash. I know how to make the processor give all that it takes, and all the cores will work this way because we're using that routine that somebody else developed. So you can do much better.
So we talked about how you first got into Spectrum, and how it's progressing, and what's still happening now, which is a thrilling thing to know that it's still there. And like I have emulators kicking around, and I sort of download Speculator and so on, and I think, why am I actually going to play on it? Because there's so many games. And what I can remember, because I had hundreds and hundreds of them, but what ones am I actually going to use? So this is great to know that there's loads of new things it might make us all want to dig out our old specs. And coming along things like these replay events as well, always makes me want to go over and break the loft and get on and gear that down again, because unfortunately it can't live downstairs. But things can get a little easier with something you're working on as well. So I think it's time we maybe announced where you've been working hard. This is a new announcement that hasn't done anywhere else at all, so you're the very first people to hear this.
So I bear with these fine chats over here. The first one you all should know and be a fan of. That's Rick Dickinson, who created the first Spectrums, right? He worked at Sinclair, at the CX80, 81, the Spectrum, Spectrum Plus, the Spectrum QL. And he's one of the best designers in the world. He understands design from a perspective of very few people. This is why the Spectrum is so iconic compared to all the computers that were experienced. And then a childhood friend of mine, this guy who helped me with the computers back in the days when we were making the games and shipping them. He became a hardware guy for retro computers, and most of the stuff he has been doing is cross-platform. If you ever heard of the cartridge emulators that go around for 2600, for the Odyssey, or for NAS and so on, that's his creation. And Fabio is another guy who works with him, but he's much more of a MSX guy. But these two guys created the TV Brew, which I spoke about before. I have one here, actually going to work it, show it to work. But one of the things that none of these kids captured for me was that simplicity of the original one, that beauty of design, that one piece that does everything, that thing that you take out of the box and say, oh my God, this is beautiful. I don't need an iron, soldering iron, I don't need another extension, nothing like that. This is like the original Spectrum, a slight, like, beautiful, elegant box that has everything inside it.
Yeah, it didn't need loads of connections, you didn't have to attach others
Exactly,
to it.
exactly.
Turn it on and it just greeted you with that little blinking cursor. Like, oh.
Yeah, and then this is what I have been pushing these guys to do, right? And all that you're going to see here is their work, right? I'm only the one waving the flag and saying, let's do this, and they're the ones actually putting the hard work into it to make it happen. So it's the first time we are showing it.
No one has seen this before.
This is
groundbreaking stuff, and this is yours. You, in this room here at Play Blackpool, are the very first people to see this at all. This is the ZX Spectrum next.
I'm going to show you later on the screen here, which is that there's some details that the projector are not making good work of. But essentially, is everything that Spectrum was and still is in one package that has everything that is out there right now that people use for the Spectrum. So
we looked earlier on a slide with lots of components. We were talking about all the different things that you can get and attach to this. What you guys have been working on is consolidating it all and making it so we know that looks familiar and can plug and go.
Yeah, and if we missed something that people are very particular about, say an expansion or something like that, we also made sure that you can still attach the old hardware to it and it should work. So it should please everybody, or so I hope. Especially the people who complain that there's no HDMI, now this one has, right?
Gosh, yeah,
obviously, big screens, yeah, why not, right? But we went as far as you have RGB, you have VGA, you can attach to CRTs or flat screens or anything, it should everything work. I have a couple more images here that show the kind of the care that Rick Dickinson went to get.
So this is Rick Dickinson's work. He made the Spectrum.
But
he was the designer on the original one, the keys one that we love.
And you can see that even the feet that is retractable like a plus, but he made it like...
I completely forgot on those. Yes, yes, those retractable.
So you can get it inclined. But now the keyboard looks very much like the plus, but is a re-implementation mechanically. Right? We're using butterfly mechanism. It's very much like the ones we find in laptops.
Okay, so modern keyboard technology, so resilience and springier.
If you have a plus, you'll see that sometimes it's very difficult to key on it, right? The keys sometimes stick together, they tend to get noisy. And that's the kind of thing that we are not used to anymore. We do that for the old days, or if you actually want to use it intensively, you need a little bit more bandwidth on the keyboard, and Rick did that work as well. And we also have the same interface, the multi-phase one thing here. This is a button that evokes the multi-phase one, so you can freeze the games, put infinite-wise, all that stuff.
Thank God for the multi-phase. I'm not the only one who... Yeah, thank God for that as a kid. I know that was the thing we plugged in. For many of us, that may have been the only extra thing we plugged into a spectrum beyond, tapes and so on. But good, I'm glad to see that's there.
Yeah.
And what else are we looking at on the ports? Just
so here you have a PS2 port for mouse or extra keyboard. You have here is VGA or RGB. You select which one has a standalone, so you can use a Commodore 1088 monitor, or you can attach ADCRT, like old VGAs there, or flat screen. Here, if you're really into loading from tapes, you can load and save from tapes. We kept them. We also have a DD9 here, which is an interface 1 and interface 2 joystick port. So all you have to do is to plug the joystick. You don't even need to buy a Capstone interface or anything like that. Here is the bus, where you connect any hardware that you have legacy. This is power, and this is HDMI.
Legacy hardware?
Yeah, any hardware that you own, but not any hardware. There is one that we found that doesn't work, and we haven't solved the problem yet. But everything else we've tested a lot of stuff.
So if you had to build a multi-phase in,
you can plug it in.
You can plug it in.
Yeah, you can load from the micro drives and everything. And here's the SD card, right, which you control. You store everything. You have an SD card, deep MNC compatible kind of interrupt, where you just go into the directory, select what you want with the keyboard, choose it, and go to the memory needed. And also supports XDOS, which is the Russian protocol, which allows you to do big files on disk. So you can capture player entries and all that.
It's nice.
Yeah, isn't there?
And you get a toast track.
I have here the specs of the machine if anyone is interested, but I think that the best thing that we could do here is that these are the people who love the Spectrum probably more than I do. And I would really like, because this is just in prototype phase, we know that we can do it, we are securing it, but I wanted to hear from people what they would like. They have ideas and so on, and questions about it, so we can incorporate that into it. Right?
Okay, so I think what we'll move on to now is, of course, we've got 10-15 minutes for some questions. So if anybody has any questions that you would like to ask Henrique about developments or the Brazilian import scene and where we can get hold of spectrums, or indeed we'll just go for the next, I think. Yeah, so let's find out. I'll try and use a roaming microphone. Not obviously this one, Andrew. I was trying to use one of your wireless ones to fix it. So yes, if anybody's got any questions, I'll come on to you. If there's any questions for Henrique, then please fire away, whether it's about the next or any part of the talk that we've had. And yeah, also, what do we want? Let's find out. Let's have a go. Where's right, our first hand at the back? Hello, sir. What have you got?
You say that there's one peripheral that does not work. What is it?
Oh, you're so elusive, Henrique.
Right, yeah, it's a mouse interface. I think it's AMX, what it's called. And the thing is, that interface comes with its own Z80, right? So it was meant to not use the Spectrum Z80, but it was meant to use that one instead. It takes over the Spectrum. Using one on the expansion board, there is one pin called the bus request, which is basically takes control of the Z80 and makes the Z80 on the Spectrum not work anymore. That is the one we have not fixed yet, but I haven't given up on that.
Any more questions? Yes,
So, MGT mouse hold technology sort of made a lot of the interfaces and stuff for the Spectrum back in the day. Do you think they were quite key in expanding the Spectrum with the multi-face and the microdrive?
And the Sam Coupe, right?
Sorry?
And the Sam Coupe. They made the Sam Coupe, yeah.
So we've not really talked about the Sam Coupe. You got any sort of comments on that or anything?
No.
That was sort of supposed to be the next gen Spectrum. It didn't do too well, did it?
No, it didn't, right? I think, if my memory serves me well, I remember reading it was to do with incompatibilities issues, right? Because the Sam Coupe was meant to replace the Spectrum and have 100% compatibility with your legacy games. And that didn't actually happen. And the other was that they could not meet the demand. They delayed a lot the shipping of the units, and people gave up and they requested refunds. And I think that's what brought them down. I may be wrong, but I remember reading about this. Now, if you want something similar to the Sun Coupe, it is possible with the hardware here. Because it's all implemented in FPGA, is very expandable. We have room to do more with it. The Sun Coupe is actually comparable to the TS config that you find on the Russian ZX Evolution to some extent. But yeah, there's a lot of machines, a lot of expansions made by MGT that as many as we could test, we tested.
Any more questions? Or ideas that you want out of the next? Yes, I'll come to you first now. Come on. Yes, also what do you think? If there's something you've tried, on an emulator, or you bought a Bluetooth Spectrum keyboard and you played with an emulator on that and so on, what you genuinely want to know, don't you, Henrique? What's missing from all of those options that you think we can implement in the next?
Maybe this is the cost rack. Maybe we need something to keep our thirst warm, right?
I was wondering, is this endorsed by Sinclair? Or?
Yeah.
It is. We have all the brands, right? We have the rights to use the ROMs and the Sinclair brands, etc. I have not approached Sinclair, Sir Clive yet, right? That's my next step. It's to ask what he thinks about it.
So, like the Vega? Was it Vega?
Yes, the Vega is endorsed by him. He's actually, I think he's involved in the production of the Vega as well, which is very, very nice, right?
Okay. Excellent question. I'm glad you asked that. It's really involved, as a designer. It doesn't mean you can put Sinclair on it the way you have and have the keys and everything.
The brands for Sinclair at this time around, they were bought by Amstrad, right? And which in turn got bought by Sky. So that's what the brands rely on.
This may be a question someone's going to ask, but I will ask it now. You still want ideas for this next, and we're saying images and so on. So this isn't production, this isn't happening now. Well, when is it going to happen?
Well, we already have all the hardware. The hardware exists and it's being already sold in Brazil as the board, right? Because we want a small group of people to test the limits and find things we couldn't find. Actually, I have a prototype here. If we have time, I can show playing something.
If you want prototype testers, I think I'm standing in a room with them. I think that's, was there a hand over here for questions?
It's FPGA based, did you say? So all the hardware that's noted up there, that's all in FPGA?
Yes, most of it is FPGA. The memories are it's the same memory that used on the Spectrum, because of the timings is a special memory. And all the hardware is implemented at FPGA level. There's no emulation going on. It's all reintegrated.
Any more questions? Got some more hands. Maybe they've been answered. Yes, sir.
Interesting you chose the toast rack for the new version. Does this mean there's going to be iron bread on the...
I know how to report it, don't I? Yeah. That's a good idea. I will do that.
It should come installed. With a piece of bread. That would be so right. I put a piece of bread in it.
One of the elements I didn't speak about, perhaps that will involve some questions, is what we call the accelerator slave board, right? This is a small board that we attach to it. That has direct access to the memory of the Spectrum, and the Spectrum has access to its memory. But it works as a slave to the Spectrum, which means that because we have a GPU and a high CPU there, we could in theory make it work for the Spectrum rendering OpenGL sync, so we can have Quake on the Spectrum, right? The heavy OpenGL routines are running on that slave, and then dumping it on the memory area of the Spectrum. The Spectrum is handling all the logic and the inputs, etc., and is displaying on the screen. So it's, I don't know exactly what can be done with it, because we just started to scratch the surface with it. But it is one of the things that keep me more excited. It's a very long road for the Spectrum using this. There's a lot that can be done that has never been done because of that extra bit there.
Jim? Yeah, there we go.
Any chance of getting on the prototypes?
You knew that question was coming from somebody. Who's going to stick their neck out and ask? Henrique?
No, I will make sure that I get some prototypes. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Hands up. Yeah. Let's have a show of hands for everyone. Who does play Spectrum games now on emulators or on original hardware if it's still working for you? Let's have a look. Stand front so I can take this in. Yeah! Look at yourselves. Those are a few. kind of, why not those who aren't playing Spectrum games now? Is it just because the hardware's gone, or the keys are gone on it, certainly they're gone online? Do you know where you can get rubber keys easily?
You can, yeah.
Yeah, actually, but people are still playing on them now. I asked you earlier on who's still got the hardware. Emulators, are we using emulators on phones and that kind of thing? And, yeah, a few like speculating you mentioned at the beginning and all like that. I guess, would it be useful to you to know what would make people buy a hardware Spectrum now who haven't got one?
Yeah, that's a good point, yes. Yes, actually.
Well, without saying it's doing it on the sales pitch, because that's not what I'm here for. But why? Yes, go. Big price. Yeah, why would you have a ZX Spectrum Next rather than maybe a Bluetooth keyboard in your telly and Android running Chromecast? That stretch.
That's a good question. It has to be accessible, it has to be cheap. Right?
Yeah.
The hardware itself is not a big thing. The hardware itself is very manageable and very easy to make. The hard thing is the casing and the keyboard. That's the expensive bit. Right?
Because it's important that it's like the original.
Yes.
Yeah.
And anything that you do in plastic and ABS, if some of you are familiar with the Kickstarter for the Amiga cases, right? They are remaking. The Commodore got the Kickstarter of Commodore 64 cases, but they were lucky enough to find the original molds in the US out of an auction. They bought the molds by the ton, so they paid probably like £1,000 and got that. But for you to craft a mold of ABS that's capable of printing the case, right? That is a very expensive exercise. It's usually in the realms of 50 or 60,000 pounds just to make the mold. Then you can start producing it, and then it becomes cheap. But you have that entry barrier of creating that kind of thing.
So you're going to put a website together?
Yes,
you have that
website just to get people's interest checked, and the people who want to the website and sign up, I will start sending all these materials like the specs and all, and keep people posted on how the progress of the machine is coming together.
And you are the first ones to see that. That website is, I think, if it's not up now, it's going to be up very, very shortly.
Yeah,
but it wasn't up before we started doing this. So that ZX Spectrum Next is a new concept and a real thing, which there will be a Kickstarter for and going to happen with support. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope that's an interesting reminder of why we love the ZX Spectrum so much, and reminders of some games that we should get hold of and emulate. And then get playing on some hardware. I'm sure Henrique would be happy to chat with anybody who's got any more questions for you, whether it's about Bossa Studios or whether it's about Spectrum Days on. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Henrique.